West, come one, come all to the Hogtown Medieval Fair.
All right, 20 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I think our guest is on the phone, so to the guest, I apologize. I won't have a chance to chat off the air, but if you just hang on, we'll go on the air in just a minute. I have a real quick live commercial I have to read. Dr. Thomas Crowley sponsors part of this radio show, so I wanted to make sure I thanked him and thank the Central Florida Eye Institute for their sponsorship. If you need any eye care, and I need new glasses, Robin, I really do. You know, I complain about this all the time. The Central Florida Eye Institute can provide LASIK surgery, cataract surgery, corneal transplants, cosmetic procedures, and of course, something as basic as eye exams, which is what I need. I've been buying those $7 glasses, you know, at the whatever, wherever I get them from. Anyway, so they're not too far from where we broadcast from. Central Florida Eye Institute is at 3133 Southwest 32nd Avenue, not too far from the Paddock Mall. And if you go to the mall, if you just picture where Sears is and the Belk is, it's right over in that area, but not in the mall. It's just kind of across from it. Give them a call, 237. Gosh, I'm dyslexic. 237-8400. On the phone is Eleanor Kuhns. She is an historian. We've been looking forward to chatting with her. She's got a new book called The Devil's Cold Dish. And she, in addition to being an historian, she is the assistant director of the Goshen Public Library in Orange County, New York. I don't even know where Orange County, New York is, Robin. Good morning, Eleanor. How are you?
Good morning.
Thank you for being on the air with us today. I apologize. Usually you're able to chat with one of us off the air before we go on, but the timing didn't work out this way this morning. Where's Orange County? Where's that?
Orange County is actually about an hour out of New York City, north.
Oh, okay.
And across the river from Westchester County.
Oh, it's a nice area. I'm not familiar with the county name, but I think I know the area. Yeah. So tell me about your writing and about the book specifically, The Devil's Cold Dish.
Well, The Devil's Cold Dish is actually the fifth in a series of murder mysteries that take place in the 1790s in the early America. My main character is a traveling weaver who travels around, mainly because I didn't want the Cabot Cove curse, you know, small town and a murder every week. So I made him go on the road. And I try to take the opportunity to include a little history, to include some information about what it was like to farm then, what it was like to eat, what people wore, and all the crafts that people did. Everything had to be made by hand. It was prior to the Industrial Revolution. So I try to talk about that a little because I think we've kind of lost touch with that piece of our history.
Do you know, one of the things that we want to ask you about as a historian and also as a writer, your main character has some adopted children and is also expecting a biological child. So
yes.
What I was wondering, we were both wondering, back in those days, like in today's society, I think people will just be disposable and say, oh, I don't want that child, I'll put it up for adoption. Back then, I don't think people did that. So I'm guessing children were put up for adoption because the parents died or got sick and died or something. Am I right?
Well, partially. There was no safety net back then. So a lot of orphans, if they didn't have parents or friends to take them in, there was really nowhere for them to go.
Wow.
And actually the Shakers, who I write about quite a bit, that was one of the ways they kept their numbers up because the Shakers were celibate. So they took in a lot of orphans. And you have to realize that mortality was huge then, not just with parents, but with children.
Yeah.
Infant mortality was about 50%. So there were a lot of orphans, and then, of course, there were a lot of people who'd lost their own children.
So are these characters Shakers?
Lydia, who's my main female character, is a former Shaker.
Okay.
In my first book, Reese meets her because his son has run away from the not-so-tender care of Reese's sister. And Reese follows him, and David has run away to a Shaker community, and that's where he meets Lydia.
Gosh, I wonder how you teach your children to be celibate. I mean, do you say, hey, that piece of your body down there, you don't do anything with that? How do you teach that? Well, that's interesting, huh?
Well, I will say that the Shakers, they wanted their adopted children to make a Shaker, was how they put it. But they didn't require it. So that when I was first researching my very first book, I went to Sabbath Day Lake, which is still in existence, by the way. It is a Shaker community, even though there are only 2 Shakers left. The tour guide was the daughter of an orphan who had been raised by the Shakers. And she had married, of course, out of the Shaker community.
Right.
A lot of the kids that they raised did grow up and marry, but a lot of them stayed around the community. So they had a good tie to the Shakers, even though they chose not to become Shakers.
Wow, just the history behind all of this is so fascinating. So the book is called The Devil's Cold Dish. Can you help us understand the title?
Sure. I actually had 2 trains of thought. One is that this is a story really about envy, malice, and revenge. And at the same time, I had finished writing Death in Salem, which of course took place 100 years after the witch trials. But I kept thinking, how do you recover from seeing everyone you know turn against you? And when I came to write this book, I actually had Lydia accused of witchcraft, which did not end with the trials in Salem. And for me, The Devil's Cold Dish combines the whole witchcraft thing with the revenge motive. You know, revenge is a dish best eaten cold.
Yeah.
But I was more along the line of the Confucius saying, if you are in for revenge, you better dig 2 graves, one for the person and one for yourself, because it's so destructive.
No wonder you're an award-winning author. This is, I mean, you've got us trapped already wanting to read more.
Well, you know, I think that even though the technology is very different, and of course it's a very agrarian society, I think people are the same, and you have the same motives. You know, greed, malice, anger, jockeying for position. And my interest really is, what forces a person to take that ultimate step and murder someone else?
Yeah, really.
So that's really what I try to do at the same time in this old setting.
Don't for the rest of us, here's the lesson. Don't ever look at a librarian and think that she doesn't have these kind of thoughts. Exactly. She has them. Oh my gosh.
I think if you talk to some librarians, there are probably some patrons they'd like to murder.
I would think so. Well, you really have done an excellent job delving into the human psyche, because this one in particular, because Reese grew up in this town. He loves this town. The town apparently before loved him, and now all of a sudden they're turning against him.
I think, what I think happens is sometimes all you need is a spark. Somebody to turn against someone, and then all the petty resentments and the fears magnify. And of course, Reese has been tainted somewhat because in an earlier book, he killed his someone, and he didn't really kill his sister's husband, but in a fight he damaged him so that he can't work and he no longer cares for the family. That's why Carolyn is so angry with her brother. And all of this magnifies. And of course, you have to remember the Shakers then were not admirable to those people as they are to us. They were considered suspect because they were a different sect of Christianity, and as a consequence, people felt that they were somehow dangerous, and they were persecuted.
The website is, your website is EleanorKuhns.com, and there's a hyphen between Eleanor's first and last name. Her last name, by the way, is spelled Kuhns. We'll put a link on the video that we're going to upload later on of this interview, so you have it make it a little easier. Is the Devil's Cold Dish on Amazon and the other booksellers?
Yes, they all are. They're available in hardcover and, of course, as an ebook, Kindle, whatever.
All right. I love my Kindle. Eleanor Kuhns, thank you so much for being on the air with us. Come back with the next book. If you're ever in Florida, we'd love to have you in the studio.
Oh, wonderful. I would love that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eleanor. We will take a little break. Be right back.